It's 1 o'clock in the morning, which means it's Sunday, June the 13th. And I just finished watching a Bowie documentary, the BBC one, about the last 5 years of Bowie's life. And that put me in a specific humour, kind of inspiring. But then I went on to play 3 games of chess in chess.com, and I lost each game. And I lost each game after around my 4th or 5th move. And I don't want to go on about it, but it intrigues me how bad that makes me feel. It's just a stupid game. And I don't mind if I lose good matches, but when I lose, like the first game I played, and I guess I don't really know what I did wrong. That's the other thing that's really annoying. I did the usual Vienna opening that I'm doing all the time. Somewhere along the way, the guy's just got his bishop down like they all do. But he's managed to get a pawn through, and I can't remember if he used his queen, but anyway, he's got this situation that he can move his pawn, take my back pawn, open a concealed check with his bishop on my king. I have to move my king, and then he can actually take my rook with his pawn, get himself a queen, and that's pretty much that. I don't think I've ever, I mean, I resigned because I don't think I've ever been so badly beaten in such a horrible way in the first 5 moves of chess. And it wasn't really some of these, because the guy I was playing was ranked, I think, beneath me. It wasn't like I was playing some chess genius or anything who has some magic treatment worked out. But it's like you look at it and you scratch your head and you go, well, I'm doing what I always do. How the fuck did it not work this time? Then I played 2 more games, and not as bad as the first game, but in each case I'm still beaten after about 5 moves. It's just a case of how long can I last. It's just, my king is halfway up the board, my queen is gone, and it's just a case of, can you get incredibly lucky by getting some kind of a snap checkmate or whatever, but it didn't happen in both games. And so in both games, I mean, really beaten. You're down to having 1 rook, and your opponent has a queen, 2 rooks, a bishop, and they've also got a pawn which is just about to get become a queen. Really horrible. Chess it's a horrible game when you're beaten like that. I can't express how it makes me feel just so awful. It's weird. It's just a game, and it's not so much the opponent, it's yourself. It's this terrible annoyance with yourself because it's like you've spent a year training and watching videos and doing stuff to develop openings, and the very point of the opening is not to allow what happened in each of the 3 games I played happen. And the most annoying thing is I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did wrong. Anyway, I'm in bed, like I said, just to watch the Bowie thing. Flo is coming back tomorrow. She's going to do the whole journey. Going to stop after every 2 hours. And I'll be glad to have things back to normal again, because today was a shitty day, really. To be in a lot of ways, today was a shitty day. I got up. Yeah, Tuco's been kind of annoying all this week because of the fact that Ozana's in heat. All he wants to do is get out, get at the dog, you know. I also had Bob last night brought in a dead mouse. I had to deal with that. Um, so we tried to go for a walk this morning at 9, and as soon as I went out of the gate, Ozana was there, and the two of them just flew off through the maize crop, and I had to go after them, and I don't want to be going too far because I've still got blisters on my feet, and I'm kind of thinking, it's really warm, it's sunny, I'm not wearing any sun cream, and I don't know where these dogs are going to go or how long it's going to take, or, you know. In the end, they just really went to the tree, and I managed to get them to come back with me. But still, it's kind of a little panicky because I was imagining them. I mean, they could have, if Ozana decided she's going to just keep running, and she doesn't want to get caught either. She's not stupid. She's locked up all the time, although not as much now as she used to be. But if she kept running and went just miles and miles away, Tuco would just follow her. He would just follow her wherever she went, because that's the state he's in at the moment with the dog being in heat. And I've got these thoughts going through my head, you know, what am I going to do if they just run away into the distance and I just can't even keep up with them? Eventually, anyway, I get him back, and I'm completely full of muck because I've had to go through the maize field. It rained all day yesterday, so I'm full of muck. And I've been kind of, you know, looking after Tuco all week, getting up in the mornings and bringing him for all these walks. I'm kind of fed up at this point. It's just me. I think I make a bigger deal out of looking after a dog than it should be. Anyway, I came back, and then I don't know what I did, and then I went shopping a bit later. And that's stressful because I don't know if the car is going to start. It was fine, and I cooked some chicken and stuff. Then I decided I'm going to bring Tuco for a walk at around 7 o'clock, just because he's crying to get out, and I keep thinking maybe he wants to go to the loo, and I'll give him his last walk, and then we can settle down for the evening, you know. And I bring him out for a walk, and I just seem to meet everybody on the path. It's like packed. There's cars everywhere. I meet the new owners of Ozana, and then I meet the girl with the other dog, the little dog that you see in Men in Black that Tuco doesn't like. And then I see Ozana. She's with Patrice, the new owner. And I just keep meeting people, and that just stresses me out. And then on the way back with Tuco, my feet are starting to get to me. I have Tuco on the lead all the way, and then on the way back we meet a guy coming toward us, and he's got 4 dogs, 4 big fucking dogs. And so I decide I'm going to have to go. I'm not bringing Tuco past these dogs. So we go through the maize field again, you know. And the guy is kind of shouting over at me in French. Basically, he's saying, "It's okay, the dogs are fine. What are you doing? Where are you going over there?" I think he called me Madame. I don't know. I can't. And I'm just kind of waving at him, saying, "No, it's fine. I'm going this way." He's obviously pissed off by that. I think pissed off that I think his dogs are not. But I just don't fancy. I don't fancy the whole interaction between 4 big dogs and Tuco. So eventually I get home, and this morning as well there was a car with Bernard's daughter and I think her boyfriend, and they just had the engine of this car running from 5:30 in the morning to 6:30. Not sure what they were doing. And then this evening Tuco just again, he wants to stay out all the time. He's just standing there like a statue. And when I bring him in, he doesn't want to, you know, he's not himself. And even now, he's still kind of lying down at the door. it hasn't been a bad week overall. I've had some good moments getting up with the sun, but today was yeah, today was annoying. I have to do the same tomorrow. I'll be keeping an eye on this time, making sure that I take Tuco out quietly so that Ozana doesn't come along. And if I see her at all, we won't be going for a walk. So now I'm in bed. It's 1 o'clock. I've got my more notes from the C notebook, which I'd like to try and read a bit of, and stop obsessing about the chess. It's the bizarrest thing, you know. I have this compulsion almost to play, but there is also this there's a resistance to playing. There's the willingness to play, and then there's the resistance to play. Because I know if I win a few matches, I'm going to be great, but if I lose a few, and depending on how I lose, it's going to really knock my humor. And the 3 matches I played today was kind of, it's exactly the 3 matches you do not want to play before you go to bed. It's the worst kind of losing way, and I had to kind of force myself to click off and just shut down the computer, because I would get in a state where I would just start playing match after match, and I would just keep resigning, just because I'm pissed off, and I'd get myself back down to a much lower ranking. I've got to stop really bothering about the. It's not the ranking I'm bothering about. It's the amount of matches that I've won and lost, and I really wanted to get it evened out. And I did briefly, but now I've lost about 8 matches more than I've won. It's like 2,000 wins and 2,008 losses. It's not much, but for some reason it annoys me. So there's a resistance, and sometimes I don't play. Sometimes the resistance is strong, and I go, no, I'm not going to put myself through this torment, and I don't play. I haven't played for a few days, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets to the point where I just go out of the habit and I don't play anymore. You know. Or I set up a different account or something and try and play from the beginning again, I don't know. And maybe play at a lower level and work my way up, so that at least if I started as a 900 player, for instance, I'm pretty sure I could then win more than I'd lose. And although my rankings may not get any higher than they are now, at least I'd be in a situation where I would have, let's say, 1,000 wins and 900 losses. It would be nice to be in that state. Anyway, it's really insane. It's crazy. I mean, it's a stupid game. But I'm playing again real people. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know what it touches. It's the strangest annoyance that, I mean, I've played games before and I've literally cried because I've been so tormented at the way I've lost. So with that, I should say good night and go back to my reading here until I fall asleep. And although I don't feel it at the moment, I know that I'm going to be very relieved when Flo gets back and she can take over Monday and get back to normal. She can look after the dog. Okay. Adios. So today is Sunday, the 13th of June, and it's 20 past 4 in the afternoon, and I'm coming to you live from the Connemara. I finally managed to come in here on my feet, which are improving from the blisters. I just kind of had to get out today. So I got a message from Flo this morning to say that she would be coming home all in one day. I was wondering if she'd take a break maybe and stop off somewhere. But she's coming at 8 hours and she's going to take breaks during the way. So she won't be back till tonight. And how has it been this week? Well, obviously I think I've mentioned the situation with Tuco has been a bit off because he's obsessed with Hosanna. And I think I mentioned this already yesterday, that we got caught going for a walk at 9 o'clock and Hosanna came along and they both ran away and I had to catch them and bring Tuco back on the lead, and it was a bit of a struggle and I got full of muck. And then this week, otherwise I've had all the problems with the blisters, and Bob bought a mouse back at one point. But other than that, it's been a reasonably good week, because I've got to see other things. I've got to get up every morning, and I think I've said it already again, I got to see the sun rise and the sun set, which is not very often for me. I've gone through 3 of my notebooks, starting from around September 93, finishing finishing around October, November 95, just when I end up going back to London. And most of those notebooks, of course, take place in Sutherland Avenue. It's the Notes from the Sea effort. With me struggling to get a job, and I'm still kind of seeing Claudia at the time, struggling to pay rent, struggling with everything. And I think kind of reading all that for the last few days, because it's a reasonable amount of stuff, my writing is very small, and I've really put a lot of stuff into those little notebooks. I've filled every page. And it is a little depressing to read about someone who's so kind of limited and who spends a whole year, seems to be so much time, not really achieving very much of anything. And it might seem vain, but when I look at the pictures, because there's quite a few pictures taken around the time, all through the 80s and quite a few through the 90s. It was before digital stuff, so it's kind of the photographs that you carry around that I've got in envelopes and stuff. And anyway, when I look at myself, I see a pretty attractive young man in his late 20s who is pretty good at talking and communication and is responsible. And I'm sure I was somebody who could have learned things if, in a job. So I see, when I look at the pictures, I see potential, but nothing became of it. And on maybe a more ego note, I see someone who should have had far more success with people, but put himself in such a hole that he never got the chance to meet anybody. Because I wasn't bad looking, and I'm kind of thinking at that point in my late 20s, if I had been friends with a few people, if I had been going and interacting with civilized people, going to house parties, if I had somehow had the means to go to a college to study something that may have been of use to me. Let's say I had an idea to be a therapist. I could see myself being a therapist if I'd had the training and whatnot. Then I would have been someone in a situation surrounded by other students of my own age, and it wouldn't have been that goddamn awful drama stuff where it's just a different vibe completely. Something that wasn't suitable for me. But if I'd been in a college or something and I'd been studying something, I'd got involved in Young and stuff like that, and I wanted to go on to become some kind of therapist. Let's say that was the thing. So something that was doable, something that may have actually had a chance of working. I'd be my own boss. I'd be dealing very quietly with people. I mean, I don't know if that would have worked at all. Maybe I wouldn't have wanted to hear people's... Maybe I wouldn't have been able to deal with the terrible things people might come to me with, But more to the point, I'm just thinking, as a pretty decent looking guy with the ability to talk, with a decent vocabulary, with a decent kind of general knowledge and manners, and a popularity with people, I would have made lots of friends. And if I'd stopped smoking, and if I'd kind of managed to just get off the drink earlier, even if I didn't get off the drink, and if I'm just talking about the mid-90s, 93, 94, if I'd started looking into something like that September 93, I may well have found it, and maybe it would have taken a while, but I may have been doing something like that throughout 94, 95. And I'm just thinking of the basics of being in a situation where I'm with people every other day. I'm learning something I like. I'm having to do some exercises and things, and then I'm going to meet people. I'm going to visit with people in the class. I'm going out at weekends. I have a social kind of group, and I'm developing and learning, and because I'm meeting people, maybe different prospects can come along. A teacher says, well, I don't think you'll be good for this, but have you ever tried to study this? You might be better at doing that, or someone might go on about there's lots of self-help people now that they just try and give people confidence. And my God, with the obsession I had in 93 and 94 about trying to build your own confidence and to take your own time and be in the moment and take it one day at a time and all this kind of stuff, I would have been pretty good at just being involved in that, let's say, with some other people. People like me, if I behaved myself, because I look okay, I look good, and I behave myself, so I would have been popular. Instead of that, I spent so much time on my own, and I know some of it I liked, but at the same time, I think you can be on your own when you feel like it and still have a group of friends and stuff. You can always say you don't want to go somewhere, you don't want to meet up. I don't want to go to college today. But at least you have that system there. And instead I didn't have any of that, so it's a little depressing looking back. And then I came back to Ireland in 95. Or rather, I came back to Ireland in July 94. And I spent a pretty miserable couple of months in Staplestown Road, or Row. And the same thing there, I was really desperate to have some friends and to be doing things. And I wasn't. I could not fit in. I couldn't make friends. I couldn't get a girlfriend. I mean, a platonic girlfriend. Even somebody that would just bring you could go with her and her friends to see a movie or go to a bar or be invited to something. And like I've said too many times, probably, but back in that period, I've seen all the photographs of myself. I wasn't bad looking. I don't understand how I couldn't, how I didn't have the common sense to get involved in things, to get involved in clubs, to get involved in book clubs or in some kind of groups. Because I'm realizing now that the one place you won't meet anybody, no matter what you're like, is being propped up on your own in a bar. It straight away creates a stigma, I think. And I think women especially, they're immediately driven away by someone on his own at a bar, unless it's a Hollywood movie or something. Whereas when I went to that course eventually to do the writing course, I was with people, and straight away you're more, you know, you're more to be trusted, I think. So even in Ireland for all those months, even in Heatherfield Court, it just bothers me that I couldn't get going socially in any way. I keep going on about, I miss the social life in France. And I've got a habit of saying it's just the language that stops me, but my God, is it really? Is it the language just? Because I didn't seem to be any fucking good at it in the past either. I had a group of people on Springfield Drive for what seems to be a short period of time, a few years, where we all went out together and everybody liked me. I was really popular. This is the thing. I'm kind of an easy guy to get along with. Then I went to the Questers. I made all the effort to get into that, and that's exactly the type of thing I mean. It's a club of some sort of amateur dramatics, and I met lots of people there. Drama Centre was different. It was a mistake. But after that, 93, I'm only 27 years of age. I'm only 27 at this point. 27. And I never really got back into any kind of social situations again. The next time was really going out with Rowan and Scott and going to the Spinning Wheel, having a few of us together in the late 90s. Or going out with Flo to meet Flo's friends. And that was it. So anyway, I'm diversing here. I meant this little audio to be about what the week's been like. But I think at the moment, I don't know if my mood has just swung. I was watching a BBC documentary about the 5 last years of David Bowie's life, and it was quite inspiring and interesting. And afterward, I played a couple of games of chess.com, and I lost them, especially the first one, in the most miserable way possible. I lost it after like 4 or 5 moves. I'm sure I spoke about this last night. My mood seemed to change then, and it's like I still feel like I'm in a bad mood at the moment, a down mood. It's like I started off this week being really depressed and down. The whole thing with Sia the dog, Flo leaving. And then Sunday I went for that big walk all around the place to the lake and stuff, and that was fine except for all the blisters. And then I felt kind of a bit better during the week. The days managed to slip by. I felt okay, but today I feel down again. And thinking of all the stuff I've read, I'm a bit depressed at, at a large chunk of my life. You know, even the drama centre itself in that situation. You know, I mean, how come I didn't get laid? How come I didn't? You know, there were some girls there, I'm sure. If I just, I mean, maybe you just can't change what you are, you know. I was fantastic at the audition, with the sense of humour, not taking it seriously, smiling. If only I could have just not taken the whole thing seriously and kept a smile on my face and had a sense of humour instead of becoming Mr. Serious. So I'm disappointed when I think back on all that stuff. And it brings me to the present and Flo coming back, and she said she's very sad to leave. And she's coming back to the Connemara and me, and I'm thinking sometimes, you know, I was thinking of the fact that Claudia stuck with me. She was around all that time during the 90s. We went to movies together, and I went to her place, and we went out and stuff. But I sometimes think Flo coming back, you know, it must be depressing because she's coming back to a life perhaps that she doesn't really want to come back to. And a guy like me who's not really got anything to give. And I think reading all those things and seeing how some things have changed and other things haven't, it just makes me feel I'm a disappointment to people. And I keep thinking one day, if Flo goes to India, to the big ashram with Satguru himself, she's going to have such a good time and be with such people, feel like she belongs, that I'm going to get a call from her and she's going to say, I'm not leaving, I'm not coming back, this is where I belong. And in a way I understand it, because it's exactly what I've been talking about for the last 17, 18 minutes. It's about the fact I've never belonged anywhere. And the only moments when I belonged with a bit of a team, they stand out, you know. The only thing good about the video shop was going out with the people working there, enjoying their company. The good thing about the sugar factory was the guys there, you know. Springfield Drive, the guys. I've never had a group. But then again, I guess maybe there are people like me I have to accept the way I am. The Bowie documentary finished last night. And one of the last things they talked about was Bowie's musical, Lazarus, and how Bowie he bought the rights to the book, The Man Who Fell to Earth. And I was delighted that Bowie had kept an interest in this character, because I just loved that whole thing. He couldn't ask for a better part for Bowie to play. He literally is that guy. I did pass a comment on how I thought the play and the guy playing the lead was completely miscast. I couldn't understand why they couldn't get an androgynous person or a trans person or somebody, a kind of outwardly looking person to play the part instead of Mr. New York. But it said anyway that perhaps Bowie was really interested in this Newton character because the Newton character never fitted in. He's in a society but doesn't belong in the society. And it makes no difference how successful or how much money he has, or how big a house he has. He never feels a part of the society. It's like he's never welcomed somehow into the society. And I really, with all the stuff I've read and everything, I really relate to that. It's something in my own personality and something in my own psyche that seems to put a wall between me and other things. And also, in a disturbing way, a kind of lack of sometimes the just basic sense of common sense, you know. I know I didn't have much money back in the 90s, but you know, why did it never cross my mind to just go to the library? I mean, I went to the library all the time. There must have been flyers and things about what people like me could do. I mean, my God, I could have taken guitar lessons or something, for instance. I'm sure you could have done guitar lessons. You could ask at the library. I'm sure I could have. I wouldn't have even needed to have a guitar. There may have been places where you could have. They would have been able to loan you one. Or in the library itself, there were probably nights when people discussed things. There was. It never crossed my mind, you know. It's like getting that job in the security job in Deloitte. It never crossed my mind I could do that. And I fear I'm the same now. In the future, I may think I was in France and I was in Horizon and I was doing this and that, and it never crossed my mind to do this, whatever this is. It never crossed my mind to get on a train and get involved with this or that, or look up this or that, or I never thought I could meet people. I could have, you know, I'm. There's probably things I could do, and there's probably ways I could use my Irishness and my Englishness, English language and stuff to get on here, but I'm not seeing it. And in terms of being a part of a society, that sounds very kind of pretentious, to be in a group, someone that goes out for a drink. Perhaps there are just some people who just they whatever it is about them, they don't achieve that. Because like I say, it's all very well going on about, well, it's just because you're in France, and it is true that I'm not the same as I was nearly 30 years ago, and I really do think if I was starting up again in Ireland or England, let's say, somehow the grace of the higher power of God himself opened up some position to me and Flo. I keep saying both of us because I can't honestly picture myself alone. I really think now, because of the way I'm just saying all this stuff, if I was in Carlow, for instance, and I had no job and I was signing on the dole, this time I would sure as hell be out looking for clubs and things. This time I would go to the amateur dramatics. This time I would ask, can I be in a play? I wouldn't take myself too seriously. I wouldn't mind being the worst actor they had. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't be trying to be fucking Marlon Brando anymore, you know. It would just be a means to meet people, have fun. So yeah, I mean, I'm not the same as I was. I would find things out. Now we've got everything on our phone and we can just find out where all these things are and go and enjoy them. If it came to that. But it's also worth pointing out that it may well be that even in the future, even in Ireland or wherever, that I may never be the type of guy that has a kind of normal social life like other people, and maybe I'm idealizing what other people do. You know, I had this idea for years that everybody in Carlow were all going out together years after I left, you know, and they all were meeting up in the tavern and blah blah blah. And then one day I spoke to someone, it was John Byrne or David Dooley or someone, and they said, you know, we never see anybody either. We don't go out anymore. So it's quite possible that I'm kind of I'm idealizing the social stuff. But in fairness to myself, I'm not talking about having 25 people to go out with every day. I'm just talking about having half a dozen, three, four people that you could go out with every weekend. Anyway, the week has been interesting. I've had not really any trouble getting up in the mornings like I thought I would, and the way I've coped with that is, and sleeping in general, is I've slept kind of when I wanted to. It's also the middle of the summer, and so the brightness starts to come into the sky at around 4:30. And I haven't minded getting up to bring Tuco for walks at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I've just gone back to bed, and if I wanted to sleep at 6 o'clock, I slept. Well, that would be normally I wouldn't sleep at 6, but I haven't minded going to bed early or late. I've just kind of followed my body clock to see whenever I want to sleep, I sleep. So that part, which I thought would be a struggle, wasn't. I thought maybe it would be very difficult getting up in the morning. And poor Tuco wouldn't get his walk, but that's been the least of the problems. Tuco's obsession with the other dog during the walk yesterday evening as well. I met a whole load of people. I've said all this already, and I just that kind of stuff. Days have been very long. I have found things to do, but in this period of summer, if a person got depressed and couldn't find anything to do, it might be a very long day indeed. I was happy I found things to do, go through all the old books, even if they've left me, I don't know, it's easy to be perplexed, about what you did and didn't do, and it's kind of knowledge, and it's with hindsight, as they say, it's all very well and easy. But at the time, I guess that was the best I could do. So I'm going to begin my trip back home now. After I change my plasters on my 3 blisters. And I hope my mood lifts, because the last thing I want is for Flo to sense downness. I don't want her to come back to a depressed environment. There is, I think it's all there in my consciousness. It's reading everything, having a low self-esteem, and then thinking about the fact that Flo had a great time and didn't really miss us. When I say us, I mean Tuco and Bob. Really, very much, because she's doing the stuff she loves doing. She's doing very healthy work, not just the yoga, but meeting similar people, going for a trip like that, In a sense, it's all the stuff I've been kind of talking about that I should have been doing at some point or other in the past. And I guess by reading all this stuff and feeling, after reading it all, kind of feeling to myself, my God, what a loser I was and am, to a certain extent. And knowing that flow is probably depressed at coming back. It's hard to put that into words, the feeling of feeling inadequate. And it's interesting because I can talk, oh, why didn't I do this or why didn't I do that back then, why didn't I join a club? Well, I can ask myself right now, well, why don't you do something about things now? And it's absolutely blank out here in the recesses of my mind. I don't know what to do. There is nothing there. There is no plan. There is no way, no idea to try and make myself more, kind of feel that I could become more interesting to flow instead of this person. But like I say, my mood seemed to take a turn last night. When your mood goes, of course, your confidence goes, and self-esteem. And actually, things are completely different now than then. I mean, we've actually got our business opening up in a few days. I mean, literally a few days, I think 2 or 3 days. I've just been sorting out the cider order. So I've got a job to come back to here in a few days. People coming and going. I'll be putting money in the till. And then putting money in the bank, hopefully. And then after that, we've got like maybe a holiday we can go on and go and visit people. This Christmas, hopefully, I'll be going back to Ireland. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to. There's a very odd looking thing flying around. I think it might be one of those things. Flo has one on one of her sculptures. I don't know what they're called. They've got this green shell, and when you stand on them, they smell bad. Anyway, I'll finish with the notion that there may always be a place for us. And there was an instance when I was reading my old notes from '94. I'm in the Coach and Horses, West Ealing, and I'm drinking and I'm going up and down in moods. And I wrote down in the notebook, and I was starting to feel depressed, and then lo and behold, I hear a saxophone and I hear electric guitar, and Meatloaf jumps out to sing to me. And he reminds me that I'm still alive. And that was written in 1994, February. Meatloaf released his third kind of Bat Out of Hell type album in 2006. And the first song on the album was I'm Still Alive. When I think of these little, well, strange coincidences, whatever, I like to think that it's a sign to say, don't worry. It's a very intricate system you're living in, but there's a place for everyone, and with just a little bit of faith and one day at a time and a higher power, you know things will work out perfectly well as time goes. Problems will all be, if they're there, they'll kind of be just kind of gently melted away with time itself. That sentence is completely true, because eventually there won't be any Eddie here, so there won't be any. I personally won't have those problems with the time. I didn't mean it in that sense. I meant, with the passing of a few more years, things tend to maybe sort themselves out. And, things like coming to France, we ended up getting this Connemara and working here and keeping ourselves going, earning a living and earning plenty of money for the last decade. That came out of nowhere. So who knows? Yeah. It's certainly it's proved thought provoking going through all those books. And going through the photographs at the same time, just to see quite a large chunk of your life. Peace out. Hello. I'm out walking. Today is the Friday, the 17th, 18th of June, something like that. And we're back to work. Don't know if I said that already. We started Wednesday, today's Friday. We had a half day Wednesday, full day yesterday and today, and it's incredibly slow. And at the moment, I'm sitting on the famous rock, the place where we rest by the river. The rock. What do you mean, Flo? Probably know where that is. The one that you sit on. When you look behind, you can see our house, and you look in front, you can see the river. And it's so hot today, it's 30 degrees. I've just taken off my shoes and socks and t-shirt because my feet, man, they really need to be in the air. I've just gotten over the blister episode. Tuco's with me. Aren't you, Tuco? Oh boy. And Tuco seems to have gotten over his the spell of Hosanna's heat is finished. Otherwise, he slipped back in pretty quickly into the routine. I have just no energy today. Flo was saying a lot of people have said that towards the heat. Going from kind of 20 degrees to 30 degrees in a day or two. And the Connemara is dead, and obviously Flo's mood in the Connemara is as it always is, which is fairly bad. I just downloaded everything from this device. I put it all on YouTube, but I've already got 7 things more to put on. Done a lot of stuff. A lot of rambling about nothing. Somehow it seems like a good idea. It seems like a good idea. So my week on my own is over. And it was quite memorable for mainly not the best of reasons. And I was just thinking, I felt a bit sad that our relationship has kind of broken down to the extent it has. That we're kind of, me and Flo, we're kind of more than friends but less than a couple. Somehow. Compared to the first few years. It's like Flo is a different person. I'm sure she must think the same of me. I guess I'm a little bit, well, I needn't say it because I'm always down. There are occasions when I'm up. Occasions when I'm positive. But it's a bit like Schopenhauer would say, that life, it's like walking on 7 stones, and 6 of them are so hot you burn your feet, and the 7th is the cool one. Schopenhauer would say we mistake life for the 7th stone. And for me, a lot of the time, this is the mood. It's not that, wow, today is different because I'm in a kind of slightly depressed mood. No, this is the prevailing mood, of the moment. Every day. And occasionally I'm listening to music or whatever, and I feel I'm inspired or energized or whatever, but that really is the exception to the rule, I think. And of course the best thing I can hope for is just to be occupied. That's really all I aim for these days. It's to go back to the Connemara tonight, download more of these things perhaps, and play chess, be occupied. Think of some kind of long-term thought that is in some way inspiring, although it's difficult because inside is the way it is. I'm just thinking right now, even the thought of going back to Ireland and seeing my mother and everything in Martina, there's a certain anxiety attached to that. I haven't been there since John died. My mother turned 80. Can't take away I wish I could kind of go back to some state of innocence where those thoughts don't surface, but they do. And with me and Flo, it's the same. But like I said the other day, if I could just be curious as to, let's just see how it all turns out. Let's be curious for my own story. What's going to happen in 5 years? What's crypto going to do in 5 years? Where will we be in 5 years? There's that. I mean, that's interesting. That's interesting. How will Flo get along with the yoga? Will she get to India? Will they set up an ashram in France? It's the story of my own story, and and all the people around me. That's interesting. I have to just think of the long term, of just see how it turns out, take it day by day. There is obviously ups, and more often than not there is to be occupied with something is a bit of a gift, which I have to say I haven't had for some time. I could almost say the last time was the Obsession with Transport Fever 2, which really kept me buzzing for a couple of months back at the beginning of last year. And I still play it occasionally. I've got a game going, but it's I'm not I can't wait to play Transport Fever. I'm not like that anymore. Will some more games come? I don't know. Anyway, these short audios, I'll have to see about putting these on the laptop. But for now, I gotta go back. I must be getting towards 6 o'clock. We gotta go back to work. I gotta get dressed. Well, I gotta put my shoes and socks on. And we'll speak later.